Welcome back to the 6th episode of the Dear Young Men podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be going over the beauty of life and how it can follow a story, an argument against watching porn, and the AACAP suggests that your kids can watch over 10 hours of screen time every single week on Dear Young Men. There's no intro this week. Sorry, I couldn't come up with anything funny. I'm not gonna lie. I've been kind of sick. You might hear me cough here and there throughout this episode. I just have been a little bit down, a little bit sick. The intros will come back next week. Unless you don't like them, then tell me, and then they will never come back. So let's start with the beauty of life and how it can follow a story. I was thinking about this over the past week while I was coming up with something to talk about for this podcast. I really didn't have anything this week. Like I said, I was feeling sick, so I didn't really know what I want to talk about. And then this idea of the Harmon Circle, the hero's journey, whatever you want to call it, the cyclical nature of stories and sort of the cyclical nature of life in a way, and how I think that that's such an interesting idea because it allows so much more control over your life, and I think it should generally make your life a lot better once you sort of begin to understand that. So first, I want to go over just what the Harmon Circle, the story structure, that type of thing sort of is the hero's journey. Basically, the hero's journey, as you know it, is Luke Skywalker. He's in the middle of nowhere galaxy. He meets a strange companion, and along the way, he becomes this thing that he never was initially going to become. And so that's like the typical classic hero's journey. He fails, episode 5. He ultimately wins, episode 6, whatever it may be. The Harmon story circle is 8 steps. I don't have them memorized, but it is living in a comfort zone is step 1. Step 2 is they desire something. So this would be like Luke Skywalker wanting to get out to the world, to fight, to be part of the Rebel Alliance, whatever it may be. Number 3 is enter an unfamiliar situation. And when he enters an unfamiliar situation, it would be like when he leaves his home planet or he meets Ben Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi for the first time. 4, adapt to the situation. His parents, or his aunt and uncle died, and he has to adapt to the new situation of not having a home, leaving, going, exploring the galaxy, finally leaving his home for the first time. He gets what he desires. He does ultimately get to leave his home. It does cost him pretty much everything that he knows and loves, which is number 6, pay a heavy price for winning. He does ultimately destroy the Death Star, but the cost of that is and he never really goes over this, but he is ultimately responsible for killing millions and millions of people on the Death Star. Yeah, they were bad guys, but millions of deaths on your hand must be quite the thing to have to deal with. Number 7 is a return to a familiar situation. If you're just looking at episode 4 of Star Wars, he does return back. He gets the medals. Him and his friends all come together. They won. Everybody's happy, yada, yada, yada. And number 8, they have overall changed. Obviously, he does ultimately change. He becomes a much different person after episode 4. He's less bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. He, especially after episode 5 when he loses to Vader. So that's like the basic Harmon story circle. And I think that this is it's funny because it's obviously stories are representations. They're like little nuggets of consolidated life. So if you look at your life, it's ultimately one big Harmon circle. It's one big story structure. But I think really it comes down to moments in your life, phases in your life are a story structure. So for example, me in my life with my wife, I was in a comfort zone. I was single and I was happy with everything that was going on in my life. But, I think I wanted something more, which is to desire something. I desired a partner. I desired a lifelong companion. I desired a friend, whatever it may be. I knew I wanted to date a woman that I thought was hot. I'm a guy. Like, what do you expect? And so I enter in an unfamiliar situation. When you are asking a woman for a number, it's pretty much the most uncomfortable feeling that you can have. Obviously, the worst a woman can say is no, but at the same time, too, that overwhelming, crippling fear and anxiety of what's going to happen, like I shouldn't do this, blah, 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 can actually be crippling sometimes. So then you do it. You go, you enter the unfamiliar situation. And in my case, I asked my now wife, then just random hot chick from the bar. I asked her for her phone number, and then you begin to adapt to the situation. You start texting her. You start getting normal. You guys start to become friends. You start to become more than just friends, obviously. And then you get what you desire. Step 5 is I got a date with my wife, my then just hot girl I met at the bar, now wife. Pay a heavy price for winning. That didn't ultimately happen. But then you return to their familiar situation. Life sort of begins to stabilize as you begin to form a relationship with this person. And then at the end, you have overall change. after I started dating her, obviously I'm a different person now. And that's sort of just like, that is how life goes in anything. If you want to, like, I've started a bunch of YouTube channels in my life. You're in a comfort zone, you want to do something more. Or I wanted to start running. And so I was in a comfort zone. I wanted to start running, but I didn't know like exactly how to do it. So the desire was to start running. I entered an unfamiliar situation. I just started running. I just started putting on shoes. You adapt to the situation. You get what you desired. I became a runner. As I was running, I got better and better and better at it. I paid a heavy price. I got hurt really bad while I was running. And then you sort of return to the familiar situation of, now I'm just a runner. This is just who I am. This is just a part of my life. And at the end of it, I overall changed. I had somebody who'd run. Now I've run a marathon. I've run a half marathon. I don't really like running anymore, but that was just one part of my life. So I think that, to me, is such an interesting idea that the life is just a bunch of Harmon story circles. But the most interesting thing about it is you choose it. So in both of my examples, I chose to talk to my wife. I chose to go run. And I think a lot of it does sort of ultimately come down to you and how you respond. If you want to lose weight, the story is going to be your comfort zone is that you're fat and you want to be not fat. Then you desire something that's to be not fat. You enter an unfamiliar situation. Let's say you're working out for the first time in years or ever, and you're eating healthy for the first time in years or ever, and then you begin to adapt. That becomes sort of who you are. That's sort of the type of person that you become. I'm somebody who works out. I'm somebody that runs. I'm somebody that eats salads. I'm somebody that doesn't drink alcohol anymore. You get what you desire. At that point, you will hopefully lose the weight and become the person that you were made to be, that you want to become. You pay a heavy price for winning. I don't know what that would technically be. In this case, if you're to lose weight, the heavy price would be the opposite, because it would be a light price because you've lost the weight, and then you return to your familiar situation. You're still the same person, but now you're better, like you're a better version of that person, and overall you've changed. Obviously, you're going to still be in the same home. You're still going to be doing the same types of things, but now you're just a person that's lost a bunch of weight. You work out now. You eat healthier. That's who you are. So I think that the idea of the story structure and how life is basically just one big story, like each little moment going after each other, this are just story moments, and it's not up to you necessarily to make your life a fairy tale, because bad stuff can happen that is out of your control, but it's in your best interest to do the best you can to make your life and make your ending a fairy tale ending, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, like, remember, fairy tale endings are kind of BS, because that's not how life works. Like, I got married to my wife and it wasn't a fairy tale ending. It didn't end there. The next step is you have to do more than that. It's constant work. You're going to fight, you're going to yell, you're going to scream, you're going to cry, you're going to pout, whatever it may be. And you have to keep working. You have to keep getting better and better and better. And so long as the two of you are on the same page, it should work out just fine, I hope. All right, next, I want to talk about an argument against watching porn. I think that my generation, I'm 29 now. I know I look like I'm 50 with this bald head of mine, but I'm 29 now. And my generation was the generation that basically was the first young teenage generation to have access to porn. And when you're a young man, when you're a teenage boy, it's like you got a rocket ship attached to you. And it's something that's really hard to control. That urge is really hard to control. And obviously, like, everybody did it. I mean, everybody I knew did it. And looking back, I wish it wasn't as normalized and popularized as it is, because I think now it's become so aggressive. It's everywhere. You can't open any app without just everything being overly sexualized all the time. It's really frustrating. I don't like watching movies anymore because there's just always somebody naked in it, like for seemingly no reason. It doesn't add anything to the story. It's just there. It's just it's like gratuitous nudity is what it is, and it's very frustrating. I kind of can't stand it. You go on any social media platform, Instagram, TikTok. I mean, I don't use those, but you go on them every once in a while. I mean, I post clips from this podcast on those platforms, and it's like you just get hit with it the second you turn it on. It's like naked woman or barely almost naked woman, and it's really frustrating. I think that the culture has become so sexualized and everything. It's just like we're just a bunch of atoms floating through space, and who cares? Like, this is not dehumaning to the woman. Like, a woman that's so dehumanizing to the woman, it makes me sad. Like, these women, it makes me actually genuinely sad that they are just dehumanized like that. That they think their only worth is their body, and it's too bad, because like they could be worth so much more than just flesh, and men are treating them like that, and the men are dehumanizing themselves by treating the women like that, because they could come together and create something beautiful like a child or a happy life, but instead their relationship is just very bad for both parties. Like, everybody loses. It's very dehumanizing. So there are actually some stats. I looked into this. I like I don't watch porn. I haven't watched porn in a very long time, but I looked up some interesting facts about it. And the most interesting one is that if you stop watching porn, you stop, the thing with yourself, it can actually increase levels, like increase energy levels, and actually increase productivity, which I think is interesting for this channel, especially. It's like a big productivity guy. Obviously, I love all that stuff. And I thought that was so funny. It's like, oh, wow, it can actually make you more productive. So there's some real science behind it, not just the fact that it's embarrassing, it's dehumanizing, and it's everything that you shouldn't do in your life because you're treating yourself. It's an undignified way to live doing that, and you can't even look at yourself in the mirror. You don't finish the video. It's a very dehumanizing way to live. You're embarrassed, you're ashamed. I was reading some Reddit threads about this, and the people who are intensely addicted to it, they have problems with erectile dysfunction, which is just mind-boggling to me. Like, how could a teenage boy have trouble with erectile dysfunction? Man, I remember being a teenage boy, and it was like you couldn't even walk it. Like anyways, and so I think that it's really bad, and the culture tells you that it's not really bad, and it's probably the worst thing that you could do, in my opinion. It's almost like, I'm not saying being addicted to drugs would be better necessarily. Obviously, some drugs are so bad that they will kill you, but it's almost as bad as that. I would say it's equal to any drug addiction you could possibly have, because it will ruin your life and it makes you miserable. I saw some people saying that like they couldn't even look people in the eyes before, and then they stopped doing it, and they had this confidence. They held their shoulders back, head high. They could look people in the eyes. And I think that when you start to add all that stuff up, it's like, just stop watching it. I promise you, it will make your life so much better. It'll probably save your life. It'll bring you closer to the person that you were made to be. Porn is in the way. So I've heard some people say that it's an addiction. I've heard some people say that it's not an addiction. I am kind of in the belief that it can be an addiction. I don't see how it couldn't be an addiction. I think that if you feel this intense urge to do something, and everything that I've read and everything that I've seen, I really believe it is an addiction. And so you have to break it like any addiction. And that's not to say the onus isn't on you. It's on you. Like, if you don't do it, if you don't stop watching, then you never will. Like, it's up to you to decide whether or not you're going to break your addiction, break your habit. So I have 8 things, basically 8 ideas that I wrote down on how I think you could stop watching porn, and I think how it'll make your life a lot better. The first one is figure out why you feel this urge. So get down to the root of it right now. Just take a minute to write down like why you feel like this, put it out into the world. It's not enough to think things in your head. You have to actually, we are physical beings as much as spiritual beings, so you have to actually interact with the world. So write it down, say it out loud, because until you do that, it's not true. It's like I'm a big believer in praying out loud, because until you say it out loud, it's like you don't really mean it. If you just say it in your head, it's not that it doesn't count, but until you say it out loud, it means a lot more saying it out loud, because we are a physical world as much as we are a spiritual world. Next is that understand no matter how quote unquote normal it may seem, it is ruining your life and it is making you miserable. You have to identify the things that make you miserable in your life. It might be a short little hit that feels good in the moment, but ultimately throughout the rest of your day, throughout the rest of your week, it makes you miserable. It's not worth the short term benefit or whatever. Nothing ever is. Like, to get a short term high for long term negative consequences, it's never ever worth it. I promise you, you will never wake up and go, I am so glad I did that last night. I feel so good about myself now. I'm going to really attack the day. It's a disgusting thing to do. It's a dehumanizing thing to do, and you're better than that. I promise you, you're better than that. The third thing is, if you ever do feel the urge to watch it, just like any addiction, do something. I would suggest like praying or reading the Bible. You can download any like a Bible app if you want to have it on your phone. I know a lot of people don't like physical things anymore, like actual books. So you can have the app on your phone and just read something from there. Or you could do something that's positive. If you don't believe in God, you could do something else. Like I think that you need God behind you to do this. I really do. I really believe in that. Just like any addiction, I'm also a Christian, so I'm a little bit biased. But like, you don't have to necessarily do the things that I say to do. But instead of praying or reading the Bible, just meditate or just take some steps away. Get rid of the phone, put it down, go for a walk, do something else. Like, just do something else that takes your mind off of it. It's like any addiction. Like, you don't keep alcohol in a home. If you're an alcoholic, you get rid of the alcohol. So you have to do the same thing. You have to purge your home of those types of things. which brings me to number 4, which is if like TikTok or Instagram or any of the hypersexualized social media platforms trigger you, delete the app. I think that you are absolutely causing yourself an undue and unnecessary amount of harm just by having these things on your phone. You say that you learn and you do this, you do that. Just delete the app. I know that Apple, I don't know about Android. I don't use Android, but I know Apple has a way for you to actually restrict what websites you can go to. So do that. Like just restrict the website. Set a code, a screen time code, whatever it may be, or have somebody else set it for you so you don't know what it is, and just block the websites that you should be blocking. And that way you can you start to remove the alcohol from the house. That's basically the idea. Is if you're not alcoholic, remove the alcohol from the house. If you are addicted to porn, remove the porn from the house. That's basically what you're trying to do. Next is understand you do need to quit. Your life is actually worse because of it. Remove all the triggers, downgrade your phone, restrict your internet usage and which sites are allowed, and pray for the strength and hope to guide you. And the last couple I wanted to leave you with is put your faith in God. Do that. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, through God who strengthens me. And then John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that so whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And it's when you put your faith in Christ, he will be there for you. I promise you. So I know that it's hard. I know that life is like, it's hard. It can be very difficult working through life, and just I promise you, just trust me on this one. Okay. Next we're going to, dear young men, I want to talk about screen time with kids. This is a fight that I'm going to fight until my dying breath. I will win this fight, whether it's I change one person's heart or I change 1 million people's hearts. I don't care. If I get one person to change their opinion, I win. It doesn't matter. Like I won. If I get one person to change their mind, I won. And I've already done that. I know for a fact I've already done that because I've had comments from people telling me that I have helped them reduce their screen time, if not completely get rid of the screen time as an addiction in their life. So I already win. So I'm playing with house money. My wife sent me this actually. The American Academy of Children and Adolescent Psychiatry, they suggest that people until 18 months of age limit screen time use to video chatting along with an adult, for example, with a parent who is out of town. Between 18 and 24 months, now keep in mind this is a 1.5 and 2-year-old, screen time should be limited to watching educational programming with a caregiver. I totally disagree with that. I don't think you need to watch anything because educational programming, that there's nothing that you can watch for a kid that you couldn't teach them yourself and better, because you actually get to interact with them. You get to show them, hey, this item right here, this is red. This item right here, this is the letter A. This item right here, this is a color pencil, whatever it may be. It's a lot better than just them watching somebody do something because we feel things. Like we need to touch, we need to, like, you click the thing, you know that this is a pen, but you can know it's a pen with your eyes being closed. So teach your kid like that instead. That's obviously helped my oldest and my youngest to this point. For children, this is what blew my mind. For children 2 to 5, limit non-educational screen time to about 1 hour per weekday, which is 5 hours per week, and 3 hours per day on the weekends. So they're suggesting that you allow your kids that are 2 to 5 years old to have 11 hours of screen time. I can promise you that my kid, my oldest, who's 2 and a few months now, doesn't have 11 hours of screen time for her entire life. It's not that hard. What it comes down to, and what I realized is it's actually just, it's on the parents. The onus is 100% on the parents, because a kid doesn't do anything without you. They can't buy a phone. They can't buy an iPad. They can't do any of these things. It's like, oh my gosh, when I see the people in the stores and in the, like, you'll go to the grocery store and the kid will have a phone right in their face, like this far away from their face, just inches away, and they'll be watching something, and it's like so frustrating. You just look at these parents, you go, you're only doing this because you're being lazy right now. And I know it's hard. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, it's so easy to be a parent. Like, it's just the easiest thing. No, it's not. But like, it's your kid, and you sacrifice for your kid. So just sacrifice your little screen time and a little bit of annoying. Like, yeah, kids are loud, but they're kids. Like, that's what 2-year-olds do. They scream, and you're like, why are you even screaming right now? In one of my last podcasts, like episode 4 or 3 or something, you can actually hear one of my kids just like screaming upstairs, because that's what kids do. And that's okay, because that's what kids are supposed to do. You're supposed to culture them and nurture them and motivate them to be not screaming all the time, but understand that it's fun. Like, it's fun. Run around with them, compete with them. It's fun. I love doing that with my daughter. She screams, I scream louder. And I basically, the whole time when we're in the stores too, I'm trying to embarrass my wife. That's 95% of my parenting, is try to use my daughter and what she's doing to embarrass my wife by doing what she's doing, but bigger. And I think that, like, that's ridiculous. I don't think your kid should have any access to a screen at all. I think that video calling family members can potentially be fine. We do that with our daughter. That way she can talk to her family that's 3-4 hours away. That way she gets to know them a little bit better. And I actually do think that that can be good to help develop a relationship. But at the end of the day, like, you really do want to limit that to not very much at all. I mean, we do it for maybe 5-10 minutes at a time, maybe once or twice a week. So it's very limited. You don't want to be using your phones. We don't use our phones anywhere near the kitchen and living room where our kids primarily hang out. We make sure that we remove those. That way they don't even see us using them. It's hard. It is hard. And it can be annoying sometimes, because you want to know something? A phone is really addicting, and a phone can be really fun to use sometimes. But I promise you, it's better that way. It's better to not have them be addicted to a screen, because you could tell the kids, you could see them, the way they act, the way they operate. They're like different creatures in a way. Like, I'm not trying to be mean to them. It's not their fault. It's their parents. And I really believe you cannot let your kids use these phones. I believe you can't use these phones as much as you do. Just try to limit it to like an hour a day. That's a ton of time. An hour is forever. Just don't do things like using your phone in front of your kids. Don't let them use 11 hours a day. 11 hours a week is mind-boggling. So just don't let your kids use tablets, phones. Don't buy them for them. You're being a lazy parent, and you know it. That's why you bought it for them. You just don't want to sit there and play with them. You're just being lazy. I know it's frustrating, and I know that what I'm saying is probably offending you, and it's, well, he doesn't understand. My kid's different. My situation is different. No, your kid deserves the best version of you. So be the best version of yourself for your kids, because that's what they deserve. They're your kids. They're your responsibility. You had them. Take care of them. Sacrifice for them a little bit, okay? Maybe your life will be a little bit better if you just learn to sacrifice, okay? And get rid of the screens for your kids. That's so pathetic. I hate that. All right. Sorry. I got a little frustrated there. And finally, the last little article that I wanted to talk about today was an article in earth.com. Fatherhood takes a toll on heart health. And I can see that. The study revealed that despite worse heart health, fathers had lower death rates than non-fathers. This is obviously the least surprising part of it. The analysis involving 2,814 men aged 45 to 84 revealed that fathers had worse cardiovascular health compared to non-fathers. The assessment was based on diet, physical activity, smoking habits, weight, blood pressure, and blood levels of lipids and glucose. The change in heart health, we found, suggests that the added responsibility of childcare and the stress of transitioning to fatherhood may make it difficult for men to maintain a healthy lifestyle, such as a healthy diet and exercise, says John James Parker, an internist, pediatrician, and assistant professor of pediatrics at Northwestern University. So basically the idea here is that obviously we know that you have a lot less time to go work out and to go exercise when you're a parent. This is why I've talked about this before, but you have to learn to prioritize your working out, your exercising, and bringing your kids along with you is one of the best ways to do that. You have kids, and they're going to be around, so just make them work out with you. It's good for you. It's good for them. Everybody wins. It's not a bad thing if they go spend an hour with you outside while you clean up the yard, or while you go for a walk or whatever, and they just hang out with you. It's good to get vitamin D. It's good to be in the sunlight. It's really good for you, especially I live in Ohio, and I can feel my mood get so much better as the sun is out longer, and then we go to the winter time, and it's like I'm miserable all the time because I know vitamin D. So definitely make sure you're getting outside with your kids and playing with them and interacting with them. Keep your weight in check. Eat healthier. Prioritize that. I know it can be easy to go get the McDonald's or the Subways or whatever, to get the cheaper meals, just to get something, get some food. But a lot of times, like, those can be seemingly faster, but so many places have pre-prepared salads now that it's pretty much no excuse. Just go to any grocery store and they'll have a pre-prepared salad, and it's like about the same price as McDonald's. McDonald's is $10 about for like a Big Mac meal where I live, and a salad pre-prepared is like $10. So just get that instead. And I know it's a lot easier said than done. I get it. Losing weight isn't the easiest thing ever. I'm personally struggling with that a little bit. I'm just basically stuck. But it always just comes down to I'm making bad decisions, and I just need to do better. But the interesting thing is obviously that while they have worse heart health, fathers had lower death rates than non-fathers. And I think that a lot of that is because when you're a parent, you actually have a reason to live. And there are other reasons. They said that fathers may also be more likely to have somebody as their future caretaker to help them attend medical appointments and manage medications and treatments as they get older. Obviously, I think that's definitely right. But I do think that it's more than that. I think men especially need like a purpose, a defined goal in life to chase, to achieve, to run towards. And this is just for men, so I don't really know how the women fared. I know women typically have better heart health and they live longer anyways, because women are just like little angels sent from above that are just meant to make our lives miserable. I'm just joking. I love you, sweetie. Anyway, so they said that in the article, they said additionally, the experts found that fathers had lower rates of depressive symptoms compared to non-fathers, which could also contribute to their lower death rates. So as a guy, I think that's why the idea of retirement, I think, seems cool, but then you actually get to that point and you sort of lose all meaning. And it's like, yeah, you did all this great stuff. You accomplished all these great things. Now you get to relax. And I think men specifically, that's not really good for them. Like my dad is one of those go kind of guys, gets up at 3 a.m., runs a business, whatever it may be. And I'm like so nervous about him retiring because I don't want him to die like 10 years later just because he just got really fat and he stopped doing things. He works really hard and I know that, and I think he deserves obviously his retirement. He does deserve it. But also at the same time too, I'm worried about that. So I think guys specifically, they need to have a purpose, they need to have a goal, they need to be pushing towards something, they need to be making progress. I know me specifically, I feel like that all the time. I can't just sit on the couch, I can't just watch TV, I can't just play on my phone. I just can't do that. It makes me depressed, it makes me sad. I cannot do that. It's not something that, if I do that, I will be miserable. And there's this thing in my life that I realized, like, being miserable is worse than being not miserable. I'm teasing, but seriously, that's something to definitely be concerned with as a dad. Just making sure that you are actually focused in on having the goals, not losing yourself and your kids. They should be an addition to your life, not subtraction. But don't obviously make sure you're taking care of your hearts. Fellas, don't smoke, don't drink too much, and don't eat like crap. But obviously you shouldn't, because you should try to have your kids be the example that you want your kids to be. You should show your kids a life that they can live, but better. They should always be better than you. If you are a 92 out of 100, they should be a 95 out of 100. They should be better than you, and that's what you're aiming to do. So you want to be the stones for the foundation of your kids so they can step on your backs and get higher. That's like the whole point. Not stepping on your backs in a bad way, but stepping on your backs because you're grateful and you're happy to carry the load. I talk about that all the time with Atlas, carrying the world. That's what you are. So be the light for your kids, and I think it's funny that the heart health is worse. Like, I think that's kind of, it's not funny, but it is kind of funny because it's just like, the stress of kids. And so now at this point we do the quote of the day, and today's quote of the day, I already cried once this episode. I'm going to try to not cry again. This is my favorite movie quote. I think this is from Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. I'm going to set the stage for you before I play it. I'll probably get copyright strike for this, and hopefully that I don't lose. Hopefully people still see this, but Frodo almost kills Sam Wiseman, and because he had the ring, and so he almost killed him. And that's the context before we listen to this part right here.
By rights, we shouldn't even be here. But we are. It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo. The ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were. And sometimes you didn't want to know the end. Because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing. This shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come. And when the sun shines, it'll shine out the clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you. That meant something. Even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I know now. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. They kept going. Because they were holding on to something. What are we holding on to, Sam? That there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo. And it's worth fighting for.
All right, so this is obviously a tie-in to the story arc from the beginning of the episode. Life is a story. Life is made up of a million different stories. And that quote is just like, I don't even know if there's anything that needs to be said other than that. I love that quote. I love that movie. Go watch it if you haven't watched it in a while. The context of that too, if you haven't watched it, is basically the two of them are trying to deliver the ring and destroy the ring in I think it's like a Mount Doom. I don't know. It's a volcano basically. And they're trying to just destroy the ring because the ring is bad. It's Sauron's, whatever. It's a whole big thing. They want to destroy the ring. It's very tempting though. It's like the most tempting thing in the whole world. It's power, it's invisibility, it's everything you could ever want. And it's very tempting. And they're humans and they're men and we all are fallen creatures and we all are corrupt. And that's obviously, I mean, the books were written by, I believe, a Catholic. And so, but it's like at the end of the day, they're all alone. They have no idea how anything else is going. They're just holding on to the idea that there's some good in this world and that it's worth fighting for. And it's just like the whole time I listen to that, I always just get goosebumps. I love that quote so much. And it's true. Like there is some good in this world and it is worth fighting for. Whether it's the whole world or it's your world, your planet, my world, my planet is my family. So I know that I've talked about this a lot on this podcast, but what's the point of this podcast is to try to make a better world for my kids. And I think that that there is some good in the world and it is worth fighting for. And whether it's your world or the whole world, whatever it is, just understand that like there is good in your world and it is worth fighting for, even if times it's like the hardest times of your whole life. Just know that there is some good in it and it is worth fighting for. So almost cried twice in this episode. Next is the comment section. This is a comment from Tom. Thomas. He's very supportive of the channel. He disagreed with me, and I want to tell him why he's wrong. No. He's been awesome. He supported me on this channel and my other channel. He's got a channel of his own that he's supposed to be posting more content on that he hasn't been, so I just flamed him in front of 3 people. He says, I don't want to sound mean, as I mostly agree with your point of view, but you show a lot of survivor bias, as you were lucky, so was I, that you found your wife early, you were not cheated on, both your kids were born healthy, they're still young, but I agree with you that having a loving, faithful partner, blah, 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 is worth more than anything. It's just the most important thing. And I agree with him. I do have a lot of survivorship bias. And so maybe I'm not going to tell him why he's wrong. I am agreeing with him. But at the same time, too, it's like the alternative to the way I suggest living I just think you get married to a wonderful woman, have kids, build a life together. I think it's worth it. That's what I said in the last episode. That's what he's referring to. And I understand where he's coming from, but the alternative, in my opinion, is so much worse. I wouldn't want to be alone by myself. I want to have kids. I want to have a family. Yes, I got lucky. I got lucky on the first go. I know. And I know divorced people. I know that their lives are worse. I could see it in their eyes. They're less happy. I could tell. You could tell. You could talk to the people. Like people at church have been married for 50, 60 years. And just the way they smile and the gleam in their eyes, it's like, I want that. I think everybody ultimately sort of wants that deep down. And so I agree with him. I am lucky, but at the same time too, I don't think that the advice is wrong. I just think that, yes, some people get burned, but you can't give up on the right way to do it, because there's no alternative to that, in my opinion. Like the alternative is what? You just don't do something. So I agree with him 100%, but I also kind of disagree with him. I do think that you have to give it a try. And like, yeah, life will beat you down. It will beat you to your knees and keep you there if you let it. You, me, or nobody's going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get it and keep moving forward. So thank you, Thomas, for the awesome comment. I really appreciate all your support. And anybody who's currently listening or watching, I am genuinely so appreciative of it. And hopefully, if this can continue to grow, I will thank you when I'm got 10 million subscribers. All right, so now my favorite part of the week is the unsolicited advice section. The unsolicited advice section is a little bit of a quote, a little bit of just unsolicited advice. And it goes, a man has 2 lives. The first one starts the day he's born. The second one starts the day he realizes that he only has 1 life. That's a quote. I don't know where I heard it or where I read it, but it's a very good quote, and I very much enjoy it. And I felt that in my life specifically. I think that as you grow up, you feel almost invincible as you're a kid. You feel like nothing can touch you. But then you grow older and you realize, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, I'm almost 30. I'm going to be 30 next year. I just turned 29. Oh my gosh, I'm almost out of my 20s. That's like, I'm several decades removed from when I was born. I'll be 3 decades removed from when I was born. So you have to begin to realize that life is fleeting and it's not unlimited. So enjoy the time you have. Don't waste it doing stupid things. Do you want to look back at a life that was wasted? Do you want to be sitting there on your deathbed and look back at a life where you were sitting there going, well, I didn't really do much. I watched a lot of TV. I watched a lot of TikTok. And, I wanted to do all these great things and I set out to do them and then I didn't. It's like, that's not what you want to do. That's not how you want to live life. I'm not old enough to know that I'm not old enough to know how that feels, but I know that that's bad. I know that you don't want to look back at a life wasted. And, so many people hate on 9-to-5 jobs and they're like, well, 9-to-5 jobs will keep you miserable, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, I work a 9-to-5 job. And it's like an 8-to-5 technically. And there is like an intense honor in doing that because you're serving such a higher purpose. You're serving your family. You're creating a home, a life. You're providing food for your family. A 9-to-5 job is, it might not be people's dream, but it's noble. I think that there's definitely nobility to it. And I'm not talking about a 9-to-5 job. I'm talking about from 5 to 10. What are you doing there? When you're off work, what are you doing? Are you spending your life, or is it a life wasted? Are you spending time with your kids, with your wife? Are you dancing? Are you laughing? Are you just, Like, are you doing fun things? Like my wife and I and my kids, we're always listening to music and like Dancing Queen by ABBA. We're always dancing to that. We're always dancing to American Pie by Don McLean. Like, we're always just dancing to songs, just having fun because it's like life is too short to care what people think. It just really is. Life is too short to care what people think. Here's my suggestion. Go out and ask the girl for a number. You see a pretty girl, go confront her. It's the most terrifying thing that you could possibly do, but go ask her for the number. Like, go get the girl, go ask her for a number. It worked for me. And like, I don't know. You just have to go do the thing. Like, if you're afraid of something, you're going to spend your whole life regretting the fact that you're afraid. And that's such a sad way to live because life can either be a bunch of regrets or a bunch of regrets that you never had. It'd be better to just not have regrets. Well, you know what? I did the things I wanted to do, and some of them worked out, some of them didn't work out. And that's how my life has gone. I've tried a bunch of different things, and some of them have worked out, some of them haven't worked out. But like, I'm glad I did them. I don't have any regrets about doing them. My wife and I moved to Florida for like 2 months when we were a year out of college. Do I regret doing that? No, it was stupid. It financially was dumb. Like, we lost a lot of money on it because it was hard to get jobs the second we got down there and everything. But like, I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm glad we did it. So just go out and go look for no's. Go look for, like, have regrets. Try to have regrets of doing something, not of not doing something. When you try the thing, put all of your energy into it. If you want to, in my case, you want to get really good at video, that is your identity now. Spend all your time, all your free time that you can getting better at video. Read the books, watch the videos, learn the information you need to learn, study the movies, study the great movies, and get good at videos. Get good at the thing that you want to do. Focus in, pinpoint accuracy, and just go for it. Just send it. I'm going to obviously bring this up all the time, but realize that your phones are created by tech oligarchs to steal your time. They don't want you to look back. They don't want you to look at your life back and be like, well, you know what? I spent no time on my phone. They want you to spend as much possible time on your phone because it makes them, the more money you spend on your phone, Apple makes. The more time you spend on your phone, the more money Apple makes. The more time you spend on your phone, the more money that Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, every single site, the more time you spend on it, the more money they make. You're the product. Stop being the product. So go out and just live a life. You realize now this is your wake-up moment. Realize that you have one life to live, and don't just be reckless. Like, think about tomorrow, but at the same time too, like, understand that you only have one life. So go out and do the thing. Go kiss the girl and just go out and do the thing, because I promise you it'll be better. Thank you for watching. This has been Scott with the 6th episode of the Dear Young Man podcast. I will see you next week at Thursday at 8 a.m. Peace.